thing to understand about me and how I got here is this: failure. Jimmy Wales is good at it. So I'm going to tell you about some of my fabulous failures over the years, with an idea here to help you think in a new way about what it means to be an entrepreneur and what entrepreneurship is really all about. So this is Chicago. I used to live in Chicago. I worked as a futures and options trader in Chicago. Great job, loved it. And I would work at a desk every day. And I had this brilliant business idea. I was a programmer and I was working on the internet and so forth already at that time. My brilliant business idea is that people were using very inefficient ways to get food at work. You could fax in your order, you could call, send somebody to get the food. And I thought we'd just put this all on the internet. The whole process of ordering your lunch in a downtown office building should be on the internet, which, by the way, today is a very big business in Chicago. But of course, at that time, the result was failure. Jimmy Wales is good at it. In 1996, restaurant owners looked at me like I was from Mars. And you can imagine walking in and saying, "We want to put your menu on the internet." And they were like, "What is an internet? I've never heard of that." So it was a bit difficult then. So that didn't work out. So then I had an idea, quite a clever idea. This was, I think, even pre-Google, or about the same time that Google launched. I had an idea for a search engine. There's a few things that were brilliant about this. First of all, the name of the search engine was Three Apes. I mean, isn't that genius? And I even had a great slogan: type your search and the apes will find it. Can you tell me why that didn't take off? I don't know. I did have, I thought, a brilliant business idea. We would have pay-per-click advertising. Okay, that's not such a bad idea. And there would be two ways to pay. You could either actually pay for advertising on the site, or you could send traffic to the site and earn credits, and then use that to pay for advertising. I thought, well, this will be a way it'll start to get popular because people will link to it. They don't have a lot of money, they can link to it. They do have money, they can pay for advertising. It's a circular system, it'll work really well. The result? Failure. Jimmy Wales is good at it. Chinese spammers took over the site within 3 months. I mean, they were sending quite a bit of traffic in Chinese and demanding payment. It was really quite a confusing situation. I remember at one point, one of them threatened to send a nuclear bomb to the U.S. Maybe I'll change to a different business. I don't want to be responsible for nuclear terrorism. So then I had the idea of a free encyclopedia. This was Nupedia, the predecessor to Wikipedia. Again, brilliant business idea, a free encyclopedia for everyone. I mean, that sounds great, right? It would be written by experts. I hired a PhD in philosophy to design it. The result? Well, failure. Jimmy Wales is good at it. I spent about $250,000 on the first 12 articles. Not exactly cost effective, but you know, I keep them by my bed. I read them every night. I will get my money's worth eventually. So this didn't work. It was getting to be very frustrating. The reason it didn't work, it was very top-down. It was very difficult for people to participate. So in frustration with this, then I had a really dumb idea. Free encyclopedia for everyone. I was kind of stuck on that one. But I would, open a website, let anybody edit it. There would be no advertising, actually no sane business plan of any kind whatsoever. And what was the result? Success. Even Jimmy can do it sometimes. So Wikipedia, of course, has become a massive success. We're the #5 website in the world, changing the face of knowledge forever. And it's very inspirational. The project of Wikipedia is very inspirational. It takes me all around the world and great people like you. And so it's really wonderful. But I'm an entrepreneur. I'm restless. I'm always thinking of what's next. What can I do? That would be a good idea. So I went back to the idea of search engine, Wikia search. This was actually, I still think, a very, very good idea. Certainly, because of the success of Wikipedia, which is already very famous when I launched the Wikia search engine project, we got an enormous amount of press. There's me on the cover of Fast Company, Google's worst nightmare. I don't know how true that was, but my mother bought 10 copies. So, it was worth it. Mom still keeps it out, at home. There's my son, Google's worst nightmare. Failure. Jimmy Wales is good at it. So the search engine project, although I was quite pleased with the progress of the technology, I still think that the core idea, which was an open source search engine where different programmers, developers, people from all over can contribute modules to the code to handle different kinds of queries, different types of searches. I think the core idea was quite good, and the software was progressing quite nicely, but search engine is a very big thing, a very expensive thing to build. And we started and we spent quite a bit of money on it, and the plan was we'll spend some money on it, we'll get it going, we'll see how it's going, and we'll go out and we'll raise a second round of capital. But in the economic downturn, it was clearly not going to be possible. The venture capitalists were all in a state of panic. It was going to take several million more dollars. We didn't see any way to raise the money for it. And so we decided that we had to close the project. But at the same time, we had been working along on some other things at Wikia. So the other brilliant business idea is to build on the Wikipedia model, empower everyone to build the rest of the library, focus on making it easy to use, think about topics that have good ad revenue. And what was the result? Success. Even Jimmy can do it a second time. So where an encyclopedia was the start, a library is much, much bigger. There are many different kinds of things that people can collaborate on. And so the idea is, what do we do beyond Wikipedia? I mean, one of the things that I'm really passionate about, and that Wikipedia has been really the forerunner for, is the idea that we're moving into an era when media is no longer top-down, but is participatory. But too often, participatory media is just people yelling at each other in the comment boards and things like this. And I think there's still a lot of opportunities in helping to design spaces and design software to help people collaborate on what they want to accomplish and do so effectively to generate new kinds of media. So, hello Wikia. Wikia's been doing amazingly well. We now have about 65 million monthly visitors. Our traffic continues to just go up and up and up organically. We don't have the kind of buzz that, say, Instagram has. We have about double the traffic that Instagram has, so well, there you go. We're ranked 36 in the US, so it's quite a big site. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we do there, how many people here know the TV show Lost? Lost? Yeah, everybody knows Lost. How many people actually understood the TV show? There's one guy over here, and I think it's because he probably was reading Lostpedia while he was watching the show. So Lostpedia is this amazing wiki community where people documented throughout the series Lost. They documented every single episode, everything that happened to him. So just to give you some idea, if you saw Sawyer on the beach reading a book, the Lostpedians will write an article about that book. Maybe it's a Jane Austen book. Maybe it's Pride and Prejudice. So what would the Wikipedia entry on Pride and Prejudice be? Will it be the history of the novel and why it was important, what happens, and so on? But the Lostpedia entry would try to theorize, what did it mean that, give you the basic summary of what the novel is about, but what did it mean? Why was Sawyer reading it? How did it relate to other plot elements? Because the show is quite a rich tapestry of allusions and hints and metaphors and so forth. And so it was a guide to all that kind of thing to really help people understand the show in a much deeper way. One of the interesting things that came out of it is I met J.J. Abrams, who was the creator of Lost, and he told me, I love Lostpedia, it's so great. And then there was this quote in a magazine. This is an interview with Carlton Cuse, who was the head writer of the show. And he said, you know, the writers are stumped. They were looking to make a reference to Canada, except no one was exactly sure how they had done it in the past. So, you know, it's a very complicated, oh, Canada, we're going to mention Canada. What do we do about Canada in the past? So what did they do? They looked it up in Lostpedia. So what happened was the authors of the show, the writers, actually used the wiki as their main repository of information about the show. And in fact, some things that the wiki community noticed about the show, they then wrote into the show as further plot elements and so forth. This is really interesting. Does anybody know what it is about Canada? It turns out whenever someone mentions Canada in Lost, they're lying. And that was something that the fans had noticed, that the writers probably didn't initially intend, but they looked it up and they read it in Lostpedia, and so they continued that tradition. So throughout the entire series, whenever someone mentions Canada, they're lying, which is a pretty amazing little piece of trivia. But I think it's quite an interesting thing when we think about television, we think about media. One of the things that I argue is that television has gotten a lot smarter in the last 30 years. If you think about, you know, older TV shows that were very simple shows, very simple plot lines, up to today when you have incredibly rich, you know, dramas with multiple characters and lots of literary allusions and things like that. And one of the reasons that's possible is that people who are really into the show can actually really dig in deep. There's a lot to dig into, and they can use the internet to help them and learn the things they need to know to really understand the show. So I think that's pretty amazing cultural development.